I'm Natalie and this is James, and this is our home, Zephyr. We have been sailing around the world for the past 4 years, and now we have got a couple of stowaways on board. Meet Flint and Kira, two puppy Weimaraners that are joining the adventure. Subscribe and welcome to our channel, Sailing Zephyr. Alright, more or less, we know what we're doing. What are you doing?
Oh, I just want to look smart for the video.
Oh my god.
No, I actually can't see through these. I don't even know where they are.
What do you mean you can't see? Alright, what are we talking about today?
We are taking you through a very special video. This is another one in our series of videos that we've done before. You might have seen in the past we've done. How much does it cost for us to cruise? Top 5 mistakes we've made. What are some others? Top 5 worst sails. So this is another one of those videos in that kind of series. If you haven't seen those ones, make sure you go back, check it out. We'll put the links in the description below.
It'll also be our last one of these, as next week we are back on the boat.
We're back on the boat.
Yeah, this will be the last one. But we have been meaning to do this one for a long time because we get so many questions, repeating questions about how did we do it, how did we find our boat, where did we look, what kind of website. So we're going to get into all of that today and pretty much how to go about buying a boat under 100k or even less, right?
Yeah, or even less. All the mistakes that people make, the questions to ask, what to look for, what not to look for.
So let's dive into it.
So of course, guys, if you do want to help support this channel and help keep our journey going, especially as next year is going to be a massive year for us, we would love it if you became a patron. You can see the link in the description below, or I think there's a link at the end of the video, but head on over and we would love your support.
We love our current patrons.
Oh, we love our patrons. They're amazing.
They are. All right. Okay, so let's get into it, right?
Let's get into it.
The first thing we wanted to talk about, number one, is the budget. Now, the budget we've kind of divided into a couple of sections, and we don't include certain things. This is the budget just to buy the boat and repairs of that boat, because we are talking about buying a used boat, which might be hurricane damage, might not be, it might need repairs, it might not. So what we've done is we've divided the budget into cost of the boat and then the repairs, which you will know what kind of repairs will be needed when you are looking into the boat and what boat you might be buying. So then you can factor in those repair costs before you even buy the boat.
So yeah, Nat's correct. So as we're talking about with budget, one of the biggest mistakes that people make when they're shopping for a boat is they max out their entire budget or close to on the actual principal price of the boat. And that gets people into a ton of trouble, because no matter whether you're buying a used boat that looks turnkey, there's always going to be those hidden problems that you can't find, or even sometimes when the survey is done, they still don't find. And inevitably, you're going to end up spending more money than you thought on making those repairs. And as Nat highlighted, you're always going to have a repair budget, and that repair budget is always going to be more, isn't it?
Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely.
If you think it's going to be 10,000, it's probably going to be 20,000.
Definitely.
So one of the things that we've always recommended, and we've heard it from other people as well, it's not just our recommendation, is that you always want to increase whatever budget you think you need for repairs and double it, and then pull that out of your principal for what you can spend on the boat, and then that way you have some buffer.
So for us, for example, when we bought our boat, we had the budget of what we wanted to spend on the boat, and then when we started looking and we kind of thought, okay, this might be the boat for us, we knew that the boat was a hurricane damaged boat and it was missing its mast. So we then factored in costs before we even bought the boat, like, okay, how much is it going to cost for us to repair the mast, all the standing rigging, the fiberglassing, and all of that we had to put together to know how much it was going to be on top of our cost of the boat. So it was very important for us to factor that in, otherwise we wouldn't have been able to afford it.
And I think we even factored in a little bit more over top of that for unknowns, because especially for us, and you might be like us, where we had no idea about boats when we bought a boat.
No.
So we were like, wow, we need to add a little bit more because there's going to be stuff we just don't know about, right?
And even then, we didn't know how much boats really cost.
No, we were so naive.
Yeah, like in terms of maintenance and repairs and, you know, and all right, number 2, the second thing that we're going to dive into after we've got our budget and you know more or less what you want to spend on a boat and possible repairs, where to even find these things. And this is the huge question, where to find boats online or in marinas. How do you do it? This one we get asked so many times.
That's
like,
probably the number one comment that we get.
Give us some websites. So we're going to dive into the websites. We're also going to talk about possibly going up to private owners in marinas, which we also did.
As Nat was just starting to highlight, we have several ways that you can find boats. The most obvious being, of course, the internet. The internet is so easy these days to find boats, but you have different ways on the internet to find boats. There's a million websites. All right, so like Nat said, where do we find these boats? So there's a lot of different options these days. You have the online world, of course. You have the traditional broker system where you just call up your local broker. And then you even have the method of literally going down to a marina, like Nat said, and walking the docks. Sometimes there's for sale signs on boats. Sometimes there'll even be a broker in the marina itself. Or you just see a boat you like and you want to find out who owns it because maybe they want to sell it.
A good place for that, I should put in here, is Panama.
Oh yeah.
A lot of boats end up there in all those marinas, and that's a really good spot to check out some boats.
And I think a lot of people get to Panama with the ambition of crossing the Pacific, and then they bail on their plans, and it is hard to get back from Panama. You can watch our Panama back to Bahamas video, so go back and watch that one. That was pretty crazy, but it's a hard slog to get back.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of people get
so that's a good spot. But anyway, that was totally off.
We're getting off sideways, but Nat made a really good point.
So online.
So online obviously is the biggest avenue for people to find boats. You can sit in your pajamas in the living room, you know, just checking out thousands of boats. And Nat and I have both done it. We still do it now. We're always maybe looking for the next Zephyr 2. It could be out there, right? So different websites you can use, which are a combination of either owner listed or broker listed. The first major one that pops up obviously is Yacht World. Everybody's heard of it. Now that's a website that brokers post boats that are for sale. And then you have other websites such as boats.com. And another sort of great avenue now that a lot of people are doing, mainly, and this is to avoid brokerage fees, is people are selling boats on Facebook Marketplace. We've spoken to a number of people now that have bought boats on Facebook Marketplace, even sold their boats on Facebook Marketplace. So, you know, great way to search for boats as well. Now, if you're searching for a damaged boat, which is what we ended up doing, not on purpose, we just happened to, there are a number of companies that sell boats that have been damaged in hurricanes or storms or through the owner's fault, okay? So these are a couple of websites that come to mind is certifiedsales.com. Another one is Yacht Salvage, I think it's .com. And then one that I often look at is another one called Cooper's Capital. So some of these are salvage companies and some of these are just, I don't know what you would call them, but they basically sell all those types of boats. So something to be aware of when you're shopping on online websites is often a lot of these boats are actually been sitting on these websites for a long time. And, you know, some of your inquiries, you know, can be for boats that literally don't exist anymore. And this happens quite a lot. A big one is iNauta, I think it's called, inautic.com. They just leave all of the boats that have been for sale up for years. So just something to keep an eye on when looking for a boat online. So.
Okay, the third thing on our list is, now that you've got your budget, you know where to look to find these boats. Obviously you need to know what kind of sailing you're going to do, what kind of boat you want or need with the kind of sailing you're going to do. So are you going to be a liveaboard, or are you just going to do day sailing? Are you going to start crossing oceans, or are you just going to take the boat out during the weekend and do some coastal sailing? Like, that'll all depend on the type of boat that you're going to start looking for.
So yeah, Nat is absolutely right. Figuring out the type of boat that you need is paramount. So to do that, one of the things that we did when we started looking is we did exactly that. We decided, okay, what do we want the boat for? Well, our goal is to circumnavigate the world. So we knew we needed something that was large enough to be a full-time liveaboard boat. And we knew that we would like the boat to have certain things if it was in our budget.
Yeah.
So things like a water maker, so that we could make our own water. Solar power, so that we could charge the batteries.
We didn't know everything we needed, because it's very hard to do that until you start living on your boat, because different people require different things. You need to make a list of those things, and what the costs are to get those things put into your boat.
Absolutely. So when you're making your list of requirements, you can sort of break it into absolutely has to have and would be nice to have. Having that clear list before you start searching will help you figure out what kind of boat is. So obviously understanding where you're going to sail and what you want and the size of boat you're going to need is going to affect the budget.
Okay, what are we up to? Number 4?
I don't know. I don't know what we're talking about next.
Okay, so I think we're up to number 4 now, which is once you've got your list ready, now you are going to begin your search. So you're going to start diving into all these online websites that we've given you and start looking for the type of boat that you want, need, would like within your budget. So you're going to start trolling through lists and lists of boats.
Oh my gosh.
And this is tedious.
Oh, I've spent thousands of hours. Even when we own a boat, I spend hours and hours just looking at boats.
Yeah.
It can become addictive.
So once you start searching through all these boats and you start to narrow down certain boats that are a certain size or have what you want, the requirements that you've been looking at, you're obviously going to start making inquiries to either the brokers or the owners or whoever's in between. And this is actually more important than what people think, because your inquiries are going to rule out boats for you straight away that are not worth going to see. We've spoken to so many people that do a ton of inquiries and then they're like, yep, we're good to go, let's go and see the boat. And they fly to France, they fly to Martinique, Australia, like wherever. And then they get there and the boat's like nothing of what they expected it to be.
Not at all. Yeah.
So you really need to put in the work here and ask the questions that you want answered before you even go to see this boat. Yep. And ask for tons of photos, for video footage if they can. Like, they should be able to provide you with all of that if they're dead serious about selling this boat to you.
If the broker or owner is serious, like you just said, they'll happily give you that information, because if you're asking all the right questions, they know that you are a serious buyer, because there's 1,000 tire kickers out there, absolutely. And they just throw, as you said, these inquiries all over the shop, just trying to see what happens. But if you ask the right questions, it shows them that you are serious as well, and so you will get the information back that you need.
Yeah. Some of the key questions that we kind of thought up,
yep,
and that we asked for our boat, not knowing much about boats, so we've definitely added a few after sailing for a while.
Yeah, we've learned a little bit.
So we've added ones that we would ask, and that if you're trying to buy a boat, you should definitely ask, and it'll rule out a lot of boats. So key questions during your initial inquiry of boats.
And these are in no particular order of importance.
No, exactly. We got 1, engine hours.
Absolutely. You want to know how hard that engine, or engines if you're buying a catamaran, have been working. So.
2, previous accidents.
Yeah, this will be a difficult one, and Nat and I were talking about this because sometimes that info might not be given out. but you know, hopefully, you know, they're honest enough to say whether the boat's been in any major accidents. So we're not talking about bumping the dock in a marina.
No.
We're talking about a major accident where there's had to been serious repairs. So.
Yeah. 3, standing rigging age.
Yeah, so this really comes down to insurance and safety, especially now that we've heard of some friends being demasted recently. But knowing the age of the mast and the standing rigging, both, because they're not, you know, they're never going to be the same age most of the time if it's an older boat, because the rigging should be changed. Most insurance companies, I believe, 10 years for the standing rigging is about as old as they'll like. Some are even bringing it down to 7 years.
And that's a good point, because that'll affect your insurance.
Absolutely.
If depending on how old your mast and standing rigging is.
Yeah, like even our insurance company, who we've now used for 3 straight years, I believe, every year they still ask me how old is our mast and rigging.
Yeah, it's super important.
So,
water maker.
So yeah, or accessories. So water makers, generators, things like that. If they're on the boat, or you're trying to find out if they're on the boat because the information's not there in the ad, knowing about them is great. You know, whether they've been serviced regularly, how old they are. I mean, if you're buying a 20-year-old boat and the generator is 20 years old, could need a lot of work. So that's sort of what Nat's sort of alluding to there.
Another one, current state of sales or backup sales.
Yeah, so understanding the sail inventory, how hard they've been worked, how old they are, whether they've had any major repairs, because sails can be a pretty pricey upgrade depending on the size of boat you get. So
Systems on the boat.
yeah, having a good understanding of the systems on the boat, how old they are. Again, if it's an older boat, a 20-year-old boat, are they the original electronics? Or has there been some changes in new electronics? Has the wiring being done by professionals? Just understanding the systems on the boat, you know, is always, you know, you can't hurt to ask, and I think is important. So, and that'll tell you what systems are on the boat, because the listings tend to be vague sometimes. So.
Tender, is it included? Does the motor come with it? Is there no motor? Is it electric motor? Like all these kind of things.
How old is the tender?
Yeah.
And, yeah, that kind of thing.
All of these kind of things. Antifouling, has that been done regularly? Does it need a new one now? Because that'll, you know, affect the price of when you first get there. Do you need to take it out of the water? Yep. Put it back in, like all of that kind of stuff. Yep,
absolutely.
Any known issues? This one's easier, obviously, if you're talking to the owner directly. Yeah. Because they should be, if they've been regularly checking it and looking after it, they will be able to tell you if there's a known issue with certain things, the water maker, the engine.
Yeah, it could be minor or it could be major, you know. Is there a leaking sea? I mean, it could be anything, but just, you know, it's just a general question to sort of, just to see if there's anything you should know. I mean, some of these things, obviously, when you do a survey, will come out. But, you know, there's nothing wrong with asking the questions.
Exactly.
In the beginning. Some people are surprisingly honest sometimes. So.
Yeah. What type of sailing did the last owner use it for?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, it actually can tell you a lot about how the boat's been treated. They might have been weekend racers, you know. They could, it could have been a boat like ours, a 43-foot Beneteau Oceanus, and they might have used it every weekend for racing, which means they pushed the rig hard, you know, they pushed the sails hard. Or they're just, you know, a weekend cruiser who just brings the family out and they go anchor by a beach for the weekend. So there's nothing wrong with trying to find out what type of sailing the boat was previously used for.
Okay, a super important one, has the boat been chartered? Boats like rented homes and vacation homes get battered.
They get abused.
They do get abused. So that's a good question to ask, because you never know. It might have been in the charter industry at some point, or...
For some people, this can really be a sensitive one, because some people just will not touch a charter boat. And
other people will go after a charter boat, because it does mean that they sometimes are a lot cheaper.
They do tend to be. Nat is correct. They're often offered by brokers at lower prices for that particular.
And they're normally catamarans. So if you're looking into a catamaran, the chartered route might be the way, because that is a cheaper option.
And Europe. So Europe tends to be a cheaper place to buy ex-charter boats, at least from the research we've done. So.
Okay, this next one, if it is a hurricane damaged boat like our boat was, has it been underwater?
Yeah, so I mean, we've kind of talked about this a little bit when we went through the video about how we bought our boat specifically. And if you are going the damaged boat route, because it might not just be a hurricane, but if you are going the damaged boat route, for me, there are some very key questions. The first one that Nat just said, which is, has the boat been wet? And what I mean by that is, has water ingressed into the boat? Because if that happens, you have issues with the engine. Is it seized? Your electrics, all the timber in the boat.
Yeah, a lot of things.
It can really affect the boat. Whether the boat fell over, whether the boat was demasted, whether the boat was punctured by a jack stand, has there been any chain plate failures? There's so many things. So, but basically whether the boat's been wet and what kind of damage the boat has sustained and whether it's been repaired or not, and then how it was repaired.
Right, a really important one, has the boat got any debts?
Absolutely. A lot of people get loans to buy boats, and when they go to sell a boat, they might be a debt attached to it, and that has to be cleared, and that could cause issues with trying to buy the boat. So we've never bought a boat with debt attached, so I'm not sure how it works, but I have talked to people where that has been an issue at times.
So definitely ask about that.
Yeah.
The location of the boat, where is it at? Yeah, that might make a difference in you flying over there, seeing it, or not. I don't know.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's just worth asking where it is. Any outstanding marina fees?
Yeah, this catches a lot of people, and sometimes people sell boats literally because their marina fees are mounting up, and this can sometimes be a bargaining tool as well. So just definitely something to inquire about. They can't hide them from you, so no. It's a question absolutely worth asking. You might even have a marina paid for you for a certain amount of time, even after you bought the boat. So definitely worth inquiring.
And that happens a lot as well, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, I think there's probably more questions, but those are the ones that we kind of came up with.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a million questions you ask, but for us, we feel like those are really the key ones that will get you at least the information you need to commit to going and seeing a boat and feeling, I guess, confident enough that the boat is where you want it to be before spending money to fly to it possibly, right? So.
Okay, so going into the fly thing, flying and visiting a boat. So visiting a boat, if it looks good, you have a look inside, it's the boat that you'll know whether it's the boat for you or not once you have a look. And if this is it, you're dead set on getting this boat, then the next thing that will happen will be you will probably be putting down a deposit with the intention to buy, pending the surveys.
Yes,
right?
I cannot emphasize surveys more than I'm trying to do right now. That makes literally no sense.
No.
But surveys are so important. It's even recommended you get more than one survey because
by different surveyors. Because sometimes, and from what I've heard, this happens more in Europe, sometimes surveyors can be in cahoots with brokers. Yes.
Okay, this does happen more than you realize.
Yeah.
So get your own independent surveyor, do the research, find somebody that is reputable, and $1,000 or $800, whatever it costs to get the survey, can be the difference between you losing tens of thousands of dollars. So yeah, surveys.
Very important. After you've done all the surveys and you're happy with what's come up, if there is something that's come up, you can renegotiate the price.
Yeah, so Nat's absolutely right. Once the survey's done, there is often a chance for some further negotiation. There's some wear and tear that wasn't known before, or there's an issue that might crop up down the road. So this is an opportunity for you to work back and forth with the broker on a new price. Now, in this instance, you might the owner might be willing to fix it to keep the price at the way it is. And sometimes they'll just say, well, look, we'll take a certain amount off and reduce the price, and you take care of that once you own the boat.
And then you will pay the rest of your millions and you will have a boat.
Yeah, empty that bank account and you have a boat. Okay, so we've given you guys some great tips, great ideas and hints of how to go through this process. But of course, do your own work, do your own research, figure this stuff out for yourself as well. And hopefully you guys get a great boat in the future. So.
And we hope we see you out there, anchored right next to us.
Yeah, if you see us, stop by for a beer. We're always welcome.
That's right.
You're always welcome.
No, we're always
You're
welcome.
always welcome.
We're always welcome.
You're always welcome for a beer on our boat.
Very good English.
You just gotta like the doggos.
So, if you haven't yet subscribed or you're new to our channel, please hit that subscribe button, like the video, and hit that little bell so that you get notifications whenever there's a new video out, which comes out every Friday at 5 p.m.
If you'd like to be a part of the journey and become a patron, go to the link you see here on the screen. Another way you can support us is by hitting that subscribe button.